Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Muriel Bowser. I am the mayor of Washington, D.C. I'm at a Metropolitan Police Department's 4th District on Georgia Avenue. I'm joined by Chief Contee, members of the Metropolitan Police Department leadership, as well as the Deputy Mayor for Public Safety and Justice. We're also joined by our federal law enforcement partners who, like us, have been very focused in the 4th District and other areas throughout the District of Columbia where we are experiencing gun violence. We have said before, and we'll say again, that we are very focused on guns, illegal guns, and the people who are willing to use them. And we know for sure that people who are willing to wreak havoc in our communities have to be held accountable. Chief Contee today is going to describe the work that went into important arrests made today that we know will make our community safer. So I'm going to turn to Chief Contee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good afternoon. On Saturday, September the 4th at approximately 7:33 p.m., MPD members from the 4th District responded to the 600 block of Longfellow Street Northwest for the sounds of gunshots. Upon arrival, members located multiple victims suffering from gunshot wounds. DC Fire and Emergency Medical Services responded to the scene and transported 3 adult male victims to an area hospital for non-life-threatening injuries. Unfortunately, 3 additional victims, 2 adult males and 1 adult female, were pronounced dead and transported to the office of the Chief Medical Examiner. The 3 victims that died as a result of this senseless gun violence were identified as 31-year-old Donetta Dyson of Northeast D.C., 24-year-old Keenan Braxton of Northwest D.C., and 37-year-old Johnny Joyner of Northeast D.C. On the night of these murders, I said, there's no place for those that commit violence in our communities. I also said MPD would get accountability for those that commit violent actions. On that night, I said what I meant, and I meant what I said. I am here today to announce we have made arrests for 2 individuals involved in this case, which resulted in the deaths of 3 individuals and wounded 3 others in our community. Yesterday, on October 13th, pursuant to a D.C. Superior Court arrest warrant, members of the Capital Area Regional Fugitive Task Force located and arrested 24-year-old Kamar Queen of Northeast D.C. He has been charged with premeditated first-degree murder while armed. A short time later, members of the Capital Area Regional Fugitive Task Force stopped and arrested 27-year-old Erwin Dubose, Jr. of Northeast D.C. pursuant to a D.C. Superior Court arrest warrant. He, too, will be charged with premeditated first-degree murder while armed. At the time of the arrest, Mr. Dubose was found to be in possession of a fully loaded handgun with an extended magazine. We are grateful to our MPD members that work tirelessly to bring closure to the families and victims of this case. Lead Detective Jeffrey Weber and members of the Major Case Squad did a stellar job. This was good police work and community collaboration through and through. An example of how effective we are when we work together to bring violent offenders to justice. We would also like to thank our federal partners at the ATF, FBI Washington Field Office, and United States Marshal Service for their support and their efforts in this case. It was through a collaborative and investigative efforts that led us to apprehending these 2 suspects, bringing some closure to the families of these victims. To all the members of the community, of our community that assisted, I want to say to you simply, thank you. As I've said before, law enforcement cannot close these cases alone. Our community is key to closing these cases. I should add that we are still investigating this matter and more arrests are probable. If you have to our communities impacted by these senseless acts of gun violence, the MPD and this administration will continue to work towards a safer community by holding violent criminals accountable for their actions. And lastly, to the families of those traumatized by the senseless acts of violence, I extend my sincere condolences to each and every one of you for this very, very, very tragic and senseless act that has occurred to you in our communities. At this time, if there are any questions that I can answer, I'll be happy to take any questions that you might have. Paul.
We understand that your detectives believe there may have been 3 shooters inside the car. So are you looking for a third person at this point?
There are additional arrests that we are seeking at this point. This matter, as I said, is still under investigation, and we will continue to investigate until everyone who is involved in this matter is held accountable for their actions.
Lately, we've seen a lot of these shootings where these shooters seem to be shooting into a crowd of people and they don't care who they hit. Were these, do you know the motive? Were they after one person, more than one person? What happened up there?
So I will refer you to the charging document in this case, Paul, to really I think it kind of spells out what we believe precipitated this shooting. Unfortunately, it's a very senseless act. I mean, that's really kind of the bottom line. You know, nothing would justify this type of violence that occurred in our community. And when we see these types of things happening, I am just happy that community and police were able to work together to bring this case to closure. Paul?
We saw a spike in violence in the Brightwood neighborhood after that. Was there any kind of a connection?
There are some connections there, but some things are totally unrelated to this. And we'll continue to investigate those cases that are open. We'll continue to investigate those cases to see if any are linked. But right now, those cases, we continue to request the public's assistance. If you have any information that would lead to the closure of those cases, we ask that you contact us 202-727-9099 or anonymously at 50411. Just like we closed this case, I want to close those other cases as well to bring closures to those families and peace to those communities as well. Sam.
Chief, just curious, what role do the federal agents play in an arrest like this?
So the U.S. Marshals and Metropolitan Police Department and other agencies are part of the Capital Area Regional Fugitive Task Force. Our FBI partners and ATF partners, they were side by side with us in the actual investigation. So again, you know, for all this crime that's been happening in our city, but specifically these issues here lately over in the Brightwood community over here in Ward 4, they've been really joined at the hip with us investigating these matters.
So is this citywide or just particular cases that you're working?
No, they've been working with us citywide, quite frankly, but there was a very intense focus on this case because of the number of people. We give all our cases intense focus, but this case, because of the number, it was raised to the level of our major case unit investigating it. Obviously, those are some of our most senior, most experienced detectives, and again, our federal partners, they work with our major case detectives, they work with our district detectives, they work on regular homicide cases, robbery cases, and a lot of the other things. It's part of the federal partnerships that we have here in the district. And again, today is just another example of the great work that we do together.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Yes, ma'am.
Good work.